So it's getting on in the afternoon here, and Ben Pink says everybody gets a low point at this time in the afternoon. So just kind of reach up and stretch a little bit and get the blood flowing. Stand up a second. Stand up, just stretch. Just kind of get that blood flowing, right? Like that. Wow, this is good. You guys are attentive. So, okay, let's start. Every producer has a dream of getting into the U.S. marketplace. The U.S. marketplace is the busiest marketplace in the world, and everybody wants to be here. Every year, it gets more and more difficult to get in. It's kind of the game's locked, right? You have to know the secrets or what the due diligence is to get yourself into this market. Hopefully, what I'm going to be able to do today is give you some information, and if you do your homework and do some of these things, there's no guaranteed access, but I think it's going to be a lot easier. And I think that's really, really important. So what I wanted to do is I wanted to kind of start off with a story. And I want to talk to you about two different wineries. One winery we're going to call Domaine Bright Star. The second winery is Chateau Bougie. So, Domaine Bright Star understands what they need to do to put all their ducks in a row to even approach the US market. First, they have to have a website. The website has to look cool, it has to be up to date, it has to be easy to find the information. If you're Chateau Bougie, you have a website, but the website looks like it's something out of the 90s. I'm not even sure. Was there internet in the 90s? But it looks old, it looks crusty, it's hard to navigate, you can't figure it out. Domaine Bright Star has thought out what their brand story is. Really, really important, because stories sell brands, okay? They put the thought into it, they've rehearsed it, they have it down. It's short, it's succinct, it's concise. Chateau Bougie is kind of winging it, right? They don't really have the brand story down. It doesn't make sense, it doesn't flow, but yeah, it's good enough for them, right? Then we come to tech sheets, and tech sheets I think are a really important tool in the marketplace, because anytime you're not in the market, a tech sheet's going to help you sell your brand. So Domaine Bright Star, short, concise, all the must-know information, gives you everything you need to know, a bottle shot, all the good stuff. Chateau Bougie, they have a tech sheet, but there's no bottle shot. They don't really tell you the brand story. They don't tell you the key sales points. You know, so they're just kind of winging it again. Third point. US press. Now, there was a lot of talk earlier about wine ratings in the US, and like it or not, a large portion of the wine buyers rely on press. It's a shortcut. So Domaine Bright Star understands this. They submit all their wines, they get some US press. That's really important. Chateau Bougie, on the other hand, you know what? I got some European ratings, you know, I'm in Decanter maybe. I have enough of that. I don't really need that, you know, so I'm not going to worry about that. Then there comes the new aspect that everybody's learning these days. It's the social media part, right? So again, Domaine Bright Star does the homework. They have a plan. They've crafted a plan. They put it into place. They work it. There's a beginning, there's an end, and they follow a sequence. And that's really, really important. Chateau Bougie, they fly by the seat of their pants. You know, they might tweet something one day, Instagram something the other day. There's no flow. It really doesn't make sense. They know they got to be there, but they really haven't planned it, you know? Then there comes the second aspect. You got to understand and work with your distributor, and that's really, really important. Talking to a lot of people today and where the industry's going, the industry's changing so rapidly, all the time. Stuff that took 10 years to change is now changing in 5. Things that took 5 years might be a year and a half. So that rapid change is really important to keep up with. Distributors are moving to the point where they don't want to sell your wine, they want you in the market selling your wine. And you know, frankly, who's the best representative to do that? You guys, right? You know, so Domaine Brightstar is happy to come in the market. They know that they want to get a face behind their brand. They want to meet the retailer. They want to meet the sales guy. They want to meet the restaurateur. Because if people put a face behind the brand, that's much better, and it's harder to say no to you if they know you. So really, really important. You know, Chateau Bougie, yeah, they don't like to really travel. They think that making good wine is good enough. That's not good enough today. So they don't really work with the distributor well. They give the distributor 1 or 2 dates they can get in the market. You know, they don't come and do the sales trainings or the shows or any of that kind of stuff. They just think because they made this great brand and high quality product, it's going to sell. Then there's thinking through what a brand ambassador is. Domaine Brightstar has a whole plan. They've identified who would be good brand ambassadors, and they have a plan to put it into action, to get people behind the brand. Super, super important. Chateau Bougie, well, we don't need brand ambassadors. It's just another thing I got to kind of do, and it's not really going to work. And then the last segment, Domaine Brightstar, they do their homework. So finding a distributor is really hard today. Okay, consolidation in the distribution market is crazy. So finding the right distributor is harder than ever. So you got to do your homework, you got to network, you got to research, you got to call restaurants, you got to call retailers, find out who's good, who might work well with my brands, getting those testimonials, super, super important. And then Domaine Brightstar also understands that when you're with a distributor, you're assigned a brand manager or a sales manager. And Domaine Brightstar knows that that person has got to be your best friend inside the distributor. He can make or she can make or break your business that year. So you got to give them all the information. You got to make it easy for them to navigate it. If you don't, what's going to happen? Brand managers are managing between 25 and 50 brands now, right? If you don't make it easy, they're not going to do it. They're not going to utilize you. You know, Chateau Bougie, though, they think the brand manager is at their beck and call. All they want is a report from them, you know, and they're pestering them because they want this, that, and the other thing, but they're not giving the brand manager anything that's important or going to help them sell their product. So, at the end of the day, who's going to be more successful, right? Domaine Brightstar makes sense. They're figuring out where the market's going and they're trying to stay ahead of it. Chateau Bougie, I guarantee they're not going to be successful in the marketplace. They're flying by the seat of their pants, and that's just how it works. So this is kind of fun, but it's kind of the deal today. The distributor is the king, or the night king, so to speak. You know, and the supplier or the winery is the lamb. You know, and it used to be the point where the supplier controlled the business. Today, the distributor controls the business. And it's really, really important. And just to talk about the consolidation, so look at this. The decrease in U.S. wine distribution since 95 to 2018, 60% smaller. So 3,000 to 1,200. Consolidation, distributors getting bought up. It's harder and harder to get into distribution because of this. The pie is smaller. In the same period of time, look at the increase just in U.S. wineries. 439%, going from 1,800 wineries in 95 to almost 10,000 today, okay? That's just the US. Let's take everything from Europe. Let's take everything from South America. Let's take Australia and New Zealand. All the other places that are trying to get in the market. It's crazy, and it's very difficult. So the two keys, I think, for penetration is, number one, you have to find the right distributor. And number two, you have to help them sell your product. So how do you help them sell their product? You do the sales meetings. You do the trade tastings. You do the work with. That's really important because that's how you build the brand loyalty and people that are ambassadors for your product and people that love to learn about that. That's huge. Second thing is you deliver top-notch marketing materials. You know, we talked in the story about the website. Website's your first impression for most people on a brand, right? A lot of people, anytime you hear of a new product, what's the first thing you do? You kind of Google it, right? And what comes up kind of gives you an impression of what the brand's like. Whether you've tasted it or not, that first impression is going to stick. So if you're not putting your best foot forward with the website and things, it's going to be trouble. Text sheets, bottle shots, press, social media. We talked all about that a little bit. So at the website, it's got to be attractive. It's got to be memorable. It's got to be well organized. It's got to have some education to it. And it's got to have easy to find information. One of the things I do with consulting is I work with people to develop text sheets. And it's really, really important. So I do a lot of research to see what brands are doing. I can't tell you how many times it takes me 25 minutes to find a text sheet on a website. That's not good. What happens when that happens? People move to the next brand in the book, right? Makes sense. Text sheets, my pet peeve. Text sheets have to be one page. They have to be short and concise. They have to tell the brand story. Key sales points, maybe only 3 things are the key sales points because that's what's memorable. People only remember 3 things. And they don't even remember that if you don't say number 1, number 2, number 3. So you have to make that all part of your text sheet. You have to do a great bottle shot on it, okay? Because again, they might not have tasted your product, but they're making assumptions. And if the bottle shot is dingy, that's not speaking well for the brand. Wine press, kind of talked about that, and I'll keep coming back to it because there's a lot of buyers that aren't comfortable with their decisions and they want to be able to justify what they buy. And the easiest way to justify it is if it has press. One pager, guess what? Really, really important because people don't read stuff much anymore. And the last aspect that hardly anybody is doing is making their text sheet relevant and on a smartphone so it's easy to read. The millennial generation, they're not reading anything unless it's on that smartphone. So if you don't have your text sheet so it's in a format that works on a smartphone, you're missing the boat. You know, before, say, the restaurant, they get going, everybody's kind of standing around. If it's on their phone, the waiter, waitress, sommelier, they can read through your text sheet, familiarize with your brand, and then they're sharp and know how to sell it on the floor. I think that's huge. Here's a good example of the bottle shots. So you can see the one on the left is a little dull, the one on the right is much brighter. Again, these first impressions are important. Look at Joe Phelps' Insignia, okay? If you had the dingy, dark-looking one, you're gonna pay $250 for that wine? Maybe not, you know? So you need to put your best foot forward. And this is interesting. So Outshinery, who does a really good job of creating some of this stuff, 93% of consumers consider visual appearance to be the key factor in purchasing decisions. So what's going on right now? Direct-to-consumer is huge and only gonna get bigger, okay? First impression on direct-to-consumer sites is your bottle shot better look really, really good. I love this. Good press is a buyer's shortcut. right? They don't want to do the homework. You know what? I need something in my category. I need New Zealand Sauvignon Blanc. I'm going to see who's presenting, and anything 90 or above I'm going to take. Okay? It makes it easy. They don't have to do the homework. But you need to have US press. There's a bunch of them here, anything from, Parker. Parker doesn't judge the wines anymore, but it's still viable. Wine Enthusiast, Texom is coming up, Vineyards, Spectator's always there, Jancis Robinson a little bit, Decanter, Wine and Spirits, all those things work. But it's important because it's justification. So you need it. It's not easy, it's not inexpensive, but if you want to be in the market, it's a huge opportunity for you. And then what's new is this social media thing, and everybody's still trying to figure it out. And this continues to evolve and change so rapidly. You have to develop a marketing plan that you want to utilize on social media. Really, really important. You need to tell your story. You need to be consistent, like Robert said earlier. You need to be authentic. People want to buy things that are authentic, especially millennials. They want real stuff. They want to see behind the winery what's going on. They want to see your real people and just not some brand that's contrived for the marketplace. All those things are important. It brings your region to life. You can have fun with them, sharing a laugh, showing them you're human. All those things pull in consumers and makes it easier to like your brand. Very, very important. And then you can use all these different varieties. So there's YouTube, there's Twitter, there's Instagram, LinkedIn, Snapchat for the younger kids, and Facebook still for the older generation. All those platforms are important to be on, and each one of those platforms functions in a different way. So you need to do the homework, figure out what's the best way to reach your consumers on each of those platforms. Or if you don't want to play in all of those, figure out which ones are the most important and rank them. But you got to put some time and planning into it to make it work. It's something that up until the last 10 years really wasn't relevant to the industry, but here's my example of things changing at such a rapid pace. Inside the distributor, you really got to work to build the brand ambassador. That's huge because you can't be there all the time, and you need brand ambassadors talking about your products. Brand ambassadors can be a salesperson. They can be someone in a restaurant, a waiter or a sommelier. They can be someone on the sales retail floor. All those things work. And I like this quote from Joe Tripodio from Coca-Cola. He was the chief marketing officer. He says, awareness is fine, but advocacy will take your business to the next level. When people like your brand, they tell other people about it. So hugely, hugely important. Then here are a couple things that I always recommend to do to build your brand ambassadors and to get them in your corner. Trips. Everybody loves a trip, right? There's no better way to show your brand story. And I know that's not inexpensive, but if you get the right people and you take them on a really good trip, you have a brand ambassador for life. Okay, I'll give you some examples. I used to work for Seagram Chateau Estates. We used to sell Trimbach. We used to sell Sandeman ports and sherries. When Sandeman got sold in 2000, it's almost 20 years later, but I'm still talking about Sandeman ports. I'm still talking about Trimbach. I still talk and see those guys all the time because I'm still a brand ambassador, even though I'm doing other products, because that was highly influential when I first got going. Social media recognition, just calling out somebody on your social media makes them feel great. They pass it around, and then you get all those connections. That's a simple way and a really inexpensive way to build a brand ambassador. Samples. Eric talked about it earlier in the Somm thing. Giving samples out to future Somms coming up so they can do blind tastings, giving it to the trade people so they can utilize it in that format. All that stuff works. You have to educate them. You got to tell the stories, because stories sell wine. A good story sucks you in, and it's memorable. So you have to do those things. And then my favorite is the tchotchke. How many know what a tchotchke is? So it's giving them something, whether it's a hat or it's a t-shirt or it's a, one of those Veti mugs or something like that to keep your coffee hot. Every day they're driving to work, they see your logo on the Veti mug. That gets ingrained, right? All those things work. It's subliminal, but all those things work. So this is kind of funny, and the reason I put it in is the distributor is a wall that you need to break down and break through, okay? It's not like the old days where it was easy to get that. You have to be on your game. Finding the right distributor is critical to your success. Without it, it's going to be really, really hard. Doing the homework. Are you a good fit for their sales book? How might you figure that out? You know that little website called 750? You can put different zip codes in, and basically with that, you can get a list of distributors. Then you can look at their book, and you can see what they have in their book and see if your brand is a fit, or maybe it's not a fit. So it saves you time. I think that's really, really important. But doing the homework. Are they paying their bills? You know the large ones do, but there's a lot of small distributors that aren't maybe. So do you want to take that chance, or do you want to do the homework and find out if their financials are in the right place? Do they have a market presence? Really going into some of the key markets you want to be in and visiting a retailer, a couple restaurants, and talking to people and ask who the best people in the marketplace are? That's a really great way. It takes time, but if you're going to invest in being in the US market, you need to do it the right way. So all that stuff takes work and planning. And do you know who the market influencers are in those markets? You can even research salespeople and sales managers today. You can look at LinkedIn, right? You can see what they're posting. You can do all that kind of stuff that kind of gives you a little bit of a psychological profile of these people and what's good. You can meet with them at their office. I think that's telltale. When you walk into an office and you first see the office, there's a lot you can tell about a distributor by what the office looks like. Is it organized? Is it disheveled? Is it neat? Do they entertain in the office? All those things tell you things that you need to know about the distributor before you make a decision. Look at their website, okay? That tells you a little bit more about their background, what they think is important. And then again, ask top accounts in the market. I love this. So this is your distributor sales manager, okay? He is literally drinking from a fire hose. 25 to 50 brands. Your job is to make his life easier. If you do that and that one thing, you're definitely going to be more successful than 90% of the distributor suppliers that are coming in. Because those guys get no thanks. All they do is get shit all day, right? They get shit from above, they get shit from below. It's a never-ending battle. And if you make their job easier, you're going to be successful. It's hugely important and very simple. So this is kind of fun. So see the wine supplier on the left, and then the distributor sales manager. And first initial meeting, will she really focus on my wine? And she's kind of got this look in her eye like, boy, I'm not really sure, right? So this is what she's thinking. Will he make my job harder or easier, right? So you want to make it easy. You want to supply them with the tools they need, be courteous and helpful, make them a brand ambassador, right? It's probably the best person to make your brand ambassador. And find out what their passion is and utilize it. Final thoughts. In red, because it's really, really important. Our business, and not just our business, every business today is changing rapidly. If you don't embrace that change and try to get ahead of that, you're going to be left behind. And you're going to be left behind quicker and faster than ever before. Think out of the box. Think of what's going on. How can you do some things that your competitors aren't doing? How can you make a name for yourself in the market? All those things are key and important. You got to be creative. You got to try new things. And that creativity, I think it's absolutely huge. So if you do all those things, I think you're in a much more level ground with your distributor. And I think that's a win-win situation, and that works for everybody. When we were at Seagram, we always were taught win-win negotiations. And the only way to move forward with your supplier, distributor, partner is it's got to be win-win. Not them winning and you losing, but win-win. Any questions? Thanks. Appreciate your time.